So Hugo Ekitike to Liverpool is now done and dusted. It's signed and sealed. And as I've already said, I don't talk about transfers until it's confirmed. It's signed and sealed. It hasn't been announced yet. Maybe by the time this video goes out, it would be announced by Liverpool officially, but it hasn't been done yet. But we all know, we've seen the pictures. The guy is in the building already. He's done his medicals. I'm sure videos will come out soon. So I think this is the right time for me to give my 2 cents about the transfer of Hugo Ekitike to Liverpool. I want to start off by talking about the transfer. So how did we end up here with Hugo Ekitike, right? Liverpool wanted a striker. It was clear from the beginning of the transfer window that Liverpool were going to sign a striker. Now, it even became more imminent or more important for us to get a striker because we lost Diogo Jota. May his soul rest in peace. So we had no option. It wasn't like we could decide whether or not to sign a striker. It became very clear that we have to sign a striker. No matter what happens, no matter who leaves or stays, Liverpool had to sign a striker. So what kind of striker were we in for? What kind of profile was Liverpool trying to get into the team? Now, it's become clear that Liverpool wanted a striker who is good on the ball, who can dribble. Dribbling means that he's very good when it comes to offensive 1v1 situations. And don't forget that Arne Slot is crazy about winning duels. And last season, whenever he spoke about duels, maybe some people misconstrued it as defensive duels, but he actually meant offensive duels. He was actually referring to offensive duels much more than the defensive ones. So he wants players, especially on the wings and in his attack, who are very good in the 1v1 duels offensively. So a player who can stand up to a defender and try to go past him. It gives you no option. Either you win the ball or you don't. There is no other way around it. So Liverpool were looking for a striker who is good on the ball. A striker who can be very strong in the 1-on-1v1 duels when it comes to dribbling and carrying the ball. The other thing that we're looking for in a striker is the ability to link up play, hold up the ball, be good in the air. When Liverpool were under pressure and we needed to hoof the ball up the field, this particular striker that we wanted to bring in should be someone who can hold up the play. We saw last season that there were a lot of occasions where we were struggling to build from the back. And in those situations, what Arne Slot instructed the boys to do was to go long. So if we feel we are too much under pressure at the back and it is too risky for us to pass the ball around, we can go long. Now, what happens with going long? When we go long, it means that we skip the opponent's press, right? And usually the press is a 1v1 press. Even if it's not 1v1, what it means is that the opponent has committed more players in our own half and left themselves short at the back in their own half. So it means that when we go long, we create 1v1 scenarios. It could be Salah with the left-sided central defender of the opponent or the left back. It could be Luis Diaz on the left-hand side facing the right-sided centre-back of the opponent. And it could be the striker, whoever the striker was, either Diogo Jota or Darwin Núñez. And we saw that in those situations, we struggled to hold up the play. Salah did well in most occasions, but on very rare occasions where we met teams who had defenders who can dominate the air, we found ourselves wanting. Against PSG away, we struggled we struggled with that particular thing in the first half. In the second half, we brought on Darwin Núñez and it kind of changed things a bit. But even that, I think we lost a whole lot of long balls. We kept playing the ball long. Allison played the ball long so many times, and we lost it. The only time that we got in was when Harvey Elliott put the ball at the back of the net. So that was the away game against PSG. In the game against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final, we suffered the same sort of fate. We couldn't pass the ball from the back, and we couldn't also go long. Whenever we went long, we lost the ball and it came back to us. So that is a problem that Arne Slot had identified in the team, and he needed to rectify that. He knew. I think most of us saw that as well. If you've been watching the games and analyzing it, that the way it should be analyzed, you would see that at times we struggled to build from the back, and whenever we went long, we tended to lose the ball, right? And it came back to us. So I think that was one major weakness of our team, apart from maybe one or two defensive lapses that we also saw throughout the season. We were struggling at times when it came to building from the back. When we faced teams that are very good with the press, we couldn't build from the back. And when we went long, we lost the ball. So Liverpool were always going to sign that kind of striker. A striker who can hold up the play when we go long, who can bring other people into the game by just contesting the ball in the air, bringing it down, and either going on their own to attack the defense of the opponent or bringing other people into the game. So that is something that we wanted to improve on. Clearly, Jota and Darwin Núñez are not suited to that kind of play. So we had links to Alexander Isak. We had links to Hugo Ekitike. Now, don't forget that the links to Hugo Ekitike started even before Diogo Jota's demise. So right at the beginning of the transfer window was when we started hearing Liverpool being linked to Hugo Ekitike. But the question is, why now? Why did we move so fast after Diogo Jota and in this particular period, right, where we found ourselves bidding for Alexander Isak, and after it didn't go through, we decided to move very swiftly for Hugo Ekitike because he was there for the taking right at the beginning of the transfer window. And I think the reason is very simple. The reason is that there were priorities in the transfer window. We had priorities. Those players, those three players that we brought in right at the beginning, those were the priority, right? The remaining transfers that we were going to do depended on certain situations. It depended on who was going to leave, at what price we were going to get who into the team. So, but then what changed is Diogo Jota. We losing Diogo Jota. I think that was one seismic occurrence that shook the transfer plans of Liverpool. So we knew after Diogo Jota lost his life that we had to sign, we have to move fast to sign and get in a striker. So that is why I think this particular deal has moved so quickly in the last few days. Now, we also heard that the player himself, Hugo Ekitike, wanted to join Liverpool, and it was always going to be Liverpool. I'm sure the reason is not associated to money. And when I say money, I mean he didn't choose Liverpool because Liverpool was a team offering him the highest salary. Maybe that was the case, maybe not. But I do think that he himself, Hugo Ekitike, thinks that Liverpool is the next step for him to advance his career. If he wanted to improve as a player, if he wanted to have the opportunity to win things, then Liverpool is the best place to be. So that is why he chose Liverpool. I'm convinced of that, and I believe that is the case. So, and I do like transfers like this, where even though Liverpool is not the team offering the best wages, players still want to come because they want to put in the work, they want to advance their careers, and they want to win things. So I think that is one positive thing about this particular transfer window. Now, when it comes to Hugo Ekitike as a player and how I expect him to perform, already there are many talks going around about his poor finishing, right? But don't forget that anything you've heard about his poor finishing in the last few weeks, either from rival fans or from whoever, is based on just last season. It is based on data from last season, a single season. So anyone who is talking about we overpaying for a striker who has a low SG, who has a negative XG minus actual goals and so on and so forth, it is based on a single season's data, right? But you and I, we all know that Liverpool don't operate using a single season's data, right? They are going to dig deeper than that. So I think that is what they did. They saw a lot of positives when it comes to the strengths and the advantages that Hugo Ekitike can offer to Liverpool, how he improves the team. I think they've seen that clearly, and that is why they decided to overlook that negative information when it comes to his goal scoring in relation to his expected goals. So I think I don't see that as a problem. In fact, I don't agree with a lot of people who tend to argue that your number 9 is expected to be the one scoring all the goals for the team, right? Or most of the goals for the team. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case that your number 9 scores all your goals, right? Or your number 9 is the most prolific player in the team, is the best finisher in the team. No, I completely reject that idea that your number 9 should be the one scoring all the goals or he should be the best finisher. I think modern day football demands a lot more from number 9s than just scoring, right? And in fact, if you have a number 9 who does nothing more than score, you have a big problem on your hand. And that is something that I think a team like Manchester City do suffer from time to time in certain games. We see that Erling Haaland goes missing, and when it happens, it looks very bad. So I would prefer having a number 9 or a striker who can link up the play as well as score, right? I want to see both. I don't want to see a striker who only links up the play and can't score, right? But at the same time, if you have a striker who only scores and offers you next to zero apart from the goals that he taps in, right? Being a tapping merchant, being a 6-yard box player, if that is all that you do, I also don't like that, right? So I want both. But if you can do the link-up play and still get some goals, I'm going to take it, right? I'm not going to say that my number 9 is a bad finisher, so that is a disaster or that is the end of the world. I don't think that is the case at all. So I think Hugo Ekitike, he's going to be a good signing. I like the fact that he's 6'3". He's tall. We need height in the team because we are going to be playing with players like Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, and Florian Wirtz in our team. You can also add Alexis McAllister, right? Who are not the tallest. So if we can have some height around to defend corners and set pieces, that would be great, and also to attack those kind of set pieces as well. So we need height in the team. We've always needed that. Now, what next? I have always been of the idea that Liverpool need 2 strikers. We need 2 strikers. So if it is actually true that Darwin Núñez is leaving, then it means that we need to bring in another striker. And who is that striker going to be? Right? I think it should be Isak. I'm not sure it is going to be Isak for sure. He's going to come in for sure, based on the price that Newcastle wants to take. But I do think that we need to bring in another striker. That also doesn't mean that Liverpool are going to bring in a striker for sure. We may end up holding our card for now and waiting till January or next summer to bring in Alexander Isak. Nobody can tell, but we'll see about that. So I expect that next season we improve in our attack. Our attack is going to be much better. It's going to be much more potent. I also think that next season, even though we've got better players in our attack in terms of Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, I still think that Liverpool will play on the counter attack a lot. And these particular players that I've mentioned, they are also very good in the transition. When we win the ball back in our half, getting the ball through the midfield and into the opponent's penalty box is going to be very smooth. It's going to be seamless because we have these players who can drive with the ball. They can move with the ball. They don't need to rely on their passing all the time. They can run at people and break defensive lines just by carrying the ball. So I think we are going to do that a lot, play on the transition a lot. Sometimes we may engineer the transitions ourselves through passing from the back or using long balls when we bait the press and we see that the opponent has committed too many bodies forward. We hit the ball long and that creates an artificial transition. So I think we are going to play like that a lot. It's going to give us more space to operate in the attack, and teams should be very wary of Liverpool's attack. I think next season, one thing that I want to see is an improvement in our defense. I think last season, at times, we conceded very sloppy goals, and that could have cost us in the league. It did cost us in the Champions League and also in the Carabao Cup final. But I think this season, one thing that Arne Slot is trying to get with these new signings coming in is flexibility. He wants to be flexible with his starting 11. He wants to be able to change things around also within games. When the game is going on and something is not right, he wants to be able to change it by making a substitution or by just tweaking the system a little bit. So I think that is going to bode well for the team. Another thing that flexibility does also is that it is going to make it very difficult for opponents to predict Liverpool, right? So it's going to make Liverpool very unpredictable. I'm not going to sit here and even try to analyze how Liverpool are going to set up next season because it is never going to be the same, right? It is never going to be the same across the season or across games or even within games. It is going to be changing constantly. And the reason why Arne Slot is going to do that is to make himself and the team, Liverpool, unpredictable for other coaches who may try to stop us, right? So if you are going to make Liverpool, how can you guess what the front three is going to be? With this current team that we have, assuming Darwin Núñez stays, Luis Diaz stays, who are you going to put in our front three? There's no way guessing who is going to start, right? So I think that bodes very, very well for the team, that we've improved our first 11, and also in terms of depth, squad depth, we have some squad depth, but I think we still need more. I don't think we are done by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to our signings. We are going to sign maybe one or two more. I do think we need two more, especially considering the fact that Luis Diaz might leave, right? Even if Luis Diaz doesn't leave, Darwin Núñez might leave, and if he leaves, we need one more body in that attacking position, because I think usually when we have 6 players in the attacking position, it means that there are 2 players in each position. But at the moment, if Darwin Núñez leaves and Luis Diaz leaves, it means that we need to replace those 2 bodies, right, to maintain our attack as 5 players fighting for 3 roles. Because I think Federico Chiesa is also going to leave at some point. So we are going to be short if we don't replace Darwin Nunes and Luis Diaz, there's going to be a problem. And there's going to be a lot of games next season. There's going to be a whole lot of games next season. And before you even know, there is an injury to one or two players. So that is something that I think we need to think about. Another thing is the defense. We need to replace Jarrell Kwanzaa. It is non-negotiable. We can't go into the season with only Joe Gomez as the backup for our central defense. I've seen Slot trying something, but I don't think it is something that he's going to be naive enough to go into the season with. He tried Andy Robertson at left centre back in our first preseason game. I think he might play him in some games next season, but I don't think he would be naive enough to not sign a defensive player this transfer window. We need a defensive player in our team to replace Jarrell Kwanzaa. So I think that is going to happen, and if that happens, then it means we are all set and good to go. This coming season is not just about the Premier League. That is something that I think we need to be aware of. It's also about fighting on many fronts. We don't want to be going full throttle only in the Premier League and leaving ourselves short in other competition. It has to be fighting on multiple fronts. And I think for us to be able to do that, we need signings. We need a few more signings before we can put ourselves in the best position to be able to do that. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know your thoughts. Thank you.